Good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us today. I want to thank Bishop Darius Pridgeon for hosting us in his beautiful church. I'm Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, and we're here today to make an important announcement about a scam that has victimized many Buffalo area churches, nonprofits, and business owners. I'm glad to be joined today by some outstanding leaders in this community. Of course, Bishop Darius Pridgeon of True Bethel Baptist Church, Janice McKinney, the Executive Director of the True Community Development Corporation, Ted Brinson, the Chair of the Board of Elam Christian Fellowship Church, and Pastors Elsie Fisher and Janice Fisher of Good Shepherd Temple Church. I believe we're also joined by Murray Holman, who's also the Executive Director of Stop the Violence. And we are also pleased to have Josh Pennell, the Chief of Staff to Assemblyman Sean Ryan, who was very helpful in bringing this case forward. Assemblyman Ryan was alerted to the scam by an alert bank teller and then contacted us. So thanks to Sean and his team and to everyone who helped us get onto this scam quickly and pursue it aggressively. I want to particularly thank members of my team that have been working diligently on this case for months, Assistant Attorneys General Jim Morrissey and Susan Sadinsky, Supervising Investigator Ken Peters, Senior Analyst Robert Vanway, and investigators Erica Law and Scott Barnes from my Buffalo office. So we're here today to announce that we have brought both civil and criminal complaints against a Buffalo woman for what we allege was a fast and furious scheme to defraud many of Buffalo's leading social service groups. In court papers filed last week, we accuse Christina Sanford Gordon of defrauding local churches, athletic groups, developers, and others of more than $200,000. Ms. Gordon, who we arrested at the end of February, is now facing 7 felony charges. She presented herself as an experienced and successful grant writer. She convinced these groups that she could secure millions of dollars in state grants, but it was all an elaborate set of lies. As we set forth in our court filings, Ms. Gordon took hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees but did not even file grant applications on her clients' behalf. Instead, we allege that she lied to them, took their money, and cruelly strung them along, often with disastrous results. Take Good Shepherd Temple Church, which pastors have joined us, paid Gordon thousands of dollars to submit grants on the church's behalf for major fixes to their building, including asbestos abatement, replacement of the church's roof. Gordon allegedly assured the church that not only had she submitted the grant applications, but that the church had been awarded grants of $500,000 for its projects. This was just an out-and-out lie. Applications were never filed, and the money was never coming. But the good people at Good Shepherd did not know this, so they contracted with a roofing company to replace the roof. The roof came off, but the money never came through. So understandably, the roofers said they couldn't keep working without getting paid, so they stopped. Now the church cannot afford to finish the work, and to this day, half the roof remains unfinished. The church and its congregants are scrambling to figure out what to do. Stories of fraud like this were replayed over and over at more than 30 organizations, including True Bethel, the Elam Christian Fellowship Church, Greater Works Christian Fellowship Church, Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church, the 716ers, Elite AAU Basketball, Buffalo Black Achievers, Nidus Development, and many others, including Ms. Gordon's own mother-in-law, who operates a daycare center, who was also a victim. So, to be clear, this was a remarkably elaborate scam. I mean, this was not a simple scam. When clients began asking Gordon when their grant money would come through, we alleged that they would quickly hear from a woman supposedly named Sylvia Gregory, who purported to be an administrator with the New York State Grants Gateway Program. Ms. Gregory would assure panicking clients that yes, their grants were being processed, and yes, the money would be deposited in their accounts in the coming weeks. Based on that assurance, several of Ms. Gordon's clients moved ahead with projects they could not afford without the grant money. But unfortunately, There was no state grant administrator named Sylvia Gregory. She was a fictitious creation of Christina Gordon. We allege that Ms. Gordon concocted this fake identity and phony email addresses so she could pose as a state grant administrator. And when assurances from the fake Sylvia Gregory weren't good enough for some clients and they began to get suspicious, we allege that Ms. Gordon moved up the state employee list. The poster over at the very end, stamped fake, looks very familiar to me. This is a fraudulent letter that we allege Ms. Gordon sent to Bishop Pridgeon and True Bethel Baptist Church, assuring them they had received $2.5 million in state funding for a capital development project. If you look at the signature, you can see the letter was supposedly signed by New York State Attorney General Eric T. Schneiderman. I am Eric T. Schneiderman. I did not sign this letter. It is a fake and a fraud. And I have to say, scamming people bothers me. It offends me. We do a lot of work protecting people in New York, consumers and businesses and nonprofits. Scamming churches and community groups that are out to do good in the community offends me even more. And scamming churches and community groups out to do good in the community by pretending to be me offends me more than that. So this is really a remarkable, brazen pattern of fraudulent activity. The one thing that wasn't fake about Ms. Gordon was her spending habits. We allege that she spent tens of thousands of dollars that she bilked from her victims to fund a lavish lifestyle, including high-end clothes, jewelry, fur, and cruises. Some of the items are listed here. So due to the good work of my staff and the many people who've come forward, we were able to move very quickly on Ms. Gordon. Today's announcement represents an important step in holding her accountable. She's now facing 7 felony accounts, including grand larceny in the second degree and scheme to defraud in the first degree. She could face significant time in prison. We've also brought a civil case and frozen her assets. We'll be seeking to obtain whatever restitution we can for victims. And the investigation is ongoing. We suspect that there may be more victims out there. So if you know of anyone who may have done business with Ms. Gordon, please contact our office immediately. And everyone should just take a moment to consider what happened in this case. There are scammers out there looking to take your money, sometimes with elaborate ruses. Be alert, be aware. Always do your own independent research. Contact people who are legitimate references for anyone that you want to retain to provide services, grant writing, or anything else. And if you have a bad feeling about it, you're better off taking some time, walk away, think about it, and if you discover anything untoward, please always can contact our office. I thank you, and now I would like to introduce our host today, the bishop of this wonderful church, Bishop Darius Pridgeon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for being in Buffalo and doing a great job for organizations like ours. Let me say this. Scams like this are detrimental to the very fabric of the organizations that are here in the community to do good work with very, very little resources most of the time. And so to have any scam such as this, I want to say there is a special place in jail for people like this. And people should take notice, and especially in New York State in this season under this administration here and under our state attorney general, that if they're going to scam, they need to be aware that there are people who will investigate it. And so I stand here with some of my colleagues today because community that, especially Western New York and Buffalo, in which many of these organizations spend countless amount of time and volunteers. And so the assistance that is often made available to us is important for the operations, feeding the hungry, ensuring that there are shelters, ensuring that people have the needs that are important to them for survival. none of the groups that are standing with me are cash-rich groups or were looking for a gift horse. They were just organizations trying to make it. And so this is, for us, a bittersweet day in the fact that, number one, we're here, and hopefully, and I won't be specific about this case, but hopefully people who decide that it's okay to defraud and to lead on organizations who are really just making it most of the time, again, there's a special place for them. Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, sir. And the Good Shepherd Church, who we were just discussing in the back, having conversation with, really is now in a great deal of debt. Ceilings are leaking, roofs are leaking that were not leaking like they are right now. And I hope that the same heart that someone may have had to defraud them in such a way, that there would be someone out there that might have a heart to help them. And I have dedicated that True Bethel will be a part of that help for the damages that they have suffered in whatever way we can to help them. So we hope that someone would reach out in our community to be able to help the church. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Tremendously important. We will try and get whatever restitution we can from Ms. Gordon, but we're certain there will be a deficit, and these are good institutions. They were not trying to get grants to live a lavish lifestyle as Ms. Gordon was. They were trying to do good works in the community, and more support for them now would be a wonderful thing to see coming from the community that they seek to serve. And with that, if you'll direct questions to Amy and identify yourself and your outlet, we can take some questions.
Hi, Monty Beckler with the Buffalo News. Could you talk about how she presented herself, how she pulled off this scam?
Well, she sort of remarkable because she only got out of prison last January, and then within a few months she had secured herself a place of employment at a church and used that as a base of operations to promote herself to others. And because she had this elaborate system with a fake grants administrator saying you got a grant, the word spread in the community that she's getting us money because, who would think that you would make up a grants administrator? So she did that. In some cases where someone who got a grant from her, she would help them hire a contractor. Sometimes the contractors said, wow, this is good, and tell other organizations that this woman can help you get a grant and maybe we can do some work for you too. So she was very, very adept at getting word of mouth out there and presenting herself. And because people kept getting letters from the grant administrators, and when worse came to worse, supposedly from me, they believed that the money was coming. I mean, who would make that up? So it was not a great long-term strategy, because sooner or later you'd have to figure it out, but she executed it beautifully for the short term.
This Grants Gateway, Outlaw is with WIPPD. This Grants Gateway, the free web portal, was that a key to convincing folks that she was for real?
Well, sort of. I mean, what she would do is have her victims fill out the very initial form just to register on Grants Gateway, but then she never followed up with any of the other paperwork. So she never really, she would point to the gateway, but she never filed one single application for a grant. So the Grants Gateway program has checks and security systems in place, so she would only do the very initial introductory filing and never follow through. But because people trusted her to handle that process, that's what they were paying her for. They relied on her to do it, and when they saw letters from Sylvia Gregory saying you got the money, figured this woman does good work.
Emily Love, Channel 2 News. What prior history did she have, criminal activity history did she have?
I believe she had something on the order of 4 felonies and 20 misdemeanors.
For what?
Various types of fraud, primarily.
Do you have anything you have to tell people out there in terms of spotting this type of fraud? I mean, obviously, they went after churches, so obviously they're thinking people will only do good. Is there something you can tell about
Well, I think it is tremendously important to do your homework and find someone who you can identify as a legitimate reference. We recommend finding 3 references for someone before you hire them. Always have a cooling off period. When someone makes your proposal, never agree on the spot. And it's the old expression, if something seems to be too good to be true, it probably is not true. This is a woman who made big promises for grant money that simply was not available in the way she described it. But checking references is very important for those at the very beginning. Now, unfortunately, because of the elaborate nature of her scam, if a few months after she was in operation, there were some organizations that had in fact received a letter and they thought they had gotten money, so they would have provided a reference there. So it's very important at the outset that she should have been checked. But it's also true that it's really important to examine carefully all the documents we get. If you look at the documents that supposedly came from Sylvia Gregory or supposedly from my office, there are blatant typos. I mean, State of New York is spelled incorrectly on my letterhead, which I assure you is not true of our real letterhead. So it's important to really scrutinize this and do your homework.
Mike Batterman with WVE, and I am curious about the letter. Obviously, there's the egregious spelling mistakes, but does your office congratulate people for grants?
We have nothing to do with giving out grants. I really don't know why she picked me. I mean, this is sort of a question we'll seek to answer going forward. But no, we don't send people congratulations for grants. We don't have anything to do with the grant process in the state.
Also, just as a follow-up to that signature up there, I mean, how much does it differ from yours?
It looks like it was a version that was copied of a signature. So it's similar to my signature. It's not. I don't know that it is mine or not, but it looks like there's some effort was made to copy an actual signature.
So, it looks pretty close, but obviously it's not.
But and it was spotted, and this letter was turned over to us, and we were able to pursue it. And fortunately, enough people became suspicious quickly enough so that by last fall we started to get the information. We were able to shut this down in a matter of a few months.
Mike Canfield, Buffalo Business First. Is there a sense that there are other people working with her on these scams, and is there any investigation into people she may have worked with?
It seems to have been pretty much a solo act, and she kept the files in her home, very well organized, but it really seems that she was operating on her own, and she didn't have anyone else posing as Sylvia Gregory. It was all her.
Mark Ashgarian from Spectrum News. So how did she, unless you've outlined this already, how did she amass this amount of money? She would tell these victims that they had to pay her certain amounts of money?
Correct. So she would offer her services for pay as a grant writer, and she supposedly was showing great results, getting these letters saying you got $500,000, you're getting $1 million. So that attracted other customers, and she was able to scam these good organizations out of over $200,000.
So she charged them just a flat fee for her services?
She charged fees for her services as a grant writer, and there are people who do work as grant writers, but she didn't. She just took the money.
How common is fraud related to grant writing? Do you see this come across your desk often?
Not that often, because it is, as I said, it's not a very good long-term strategy, because sooner or later people realize they're not getting the money. And so this was kind of remarkable, because on the one hand it was sophisticated and elaborate. She had these multiple layers of convincing people she was getting the job done. On the other hand, if the money doesn't show up, this can't go on for very long. So it was a strange combination of brilliant and stupid.
Other than restitution, is there any avenue for these churches and nonprofits to get their money back?
Very, very difficult. But we are going to join Bishop Pridgeon in hoping that the community will provide some help for those who are most badly abused. Again, these were all efforts to get grants to do good works, fund food banks, fund daycare, good things for the community.
Other on-topic questions? Off-topic questions?
Could we ask any more?
I think we're gonna, given that given the case, sensitivities, we're gonna let them hang back.
Yeah. They are here standing with us, but they're also potential witnesses. So.
Could you talk about this one? This obviously involves this church, and it's $2.5 million in funding, which I would imagine Reverend Pridgeon was quite excited to see. Could you talk about what that was supposed to be and how?
Well, I think we don't want to let Bishop Pridgeon preview anything that might be testimony, but this was her pattern. I mean, if first she would say we submitted the grant, then if a little bit of time went by, she had emails from this supposed grant administrator, Sylvia Gregory, that would come in, and those emails, Sylvia Gregory which was also Ms. Gordon, was very effusive. Oh, this is a wonderful woman. She was a great job writing grants and this sort of thing. And then if people got suspicious that time was going by and we still haven't gotten any real paperwork, she'd come out with the letter from me. So it was a whole system of stringing people along. And during this period of time, she was spreading the word about the good work she was doing, picking up more clients. And that's how it worked. But obviously enough people got suspicious, brought it to our attention. We were able to shut it down before she was able to get out of town with the money. I don't know what she was planning. I mean, if she stuck around here, she was certainly going to get caught, but it's hard to tell.
Other on-topic questions? Still on topic. I know you said it's difficult for folks from Good Shepherd to explain many details involving this specific case, but is it possible to at least hear from you about what it's like now with your church the way it is, to give us like your personal feelings about having gone through all of this?
Personal feelings? I mean, I think he expressed them. It's okay.
Well,
Anything?
stick around.
Okay.
Other on-topic? Off-topic?
Yes, regarding the George Maziar's guilty plea, your office really went after him on those charges they had, but in response,
Thank you.
a misdemeanor really seems like just a slap in the wrist. So I just want to get an explanation why you came to the plea.
Well, we reached a plea deal based on the circumstances of the case and the commitment of resources that a trial takes. And in that situation, Senator Maziarz had to resign his seat. He gave up his position of substantial power in Niagara County. He lost a job that he had gotten after he left the Senate and had to allocute and admit to engaging in misconduct. So I'm very proud of the fact that we've expanded the public corruption activities of the Office of the State Attorney General far beyond anything that had ever been done before. I think as of now we've obtained dispositions, that means a plea or a conviction or some other relief for more than 75 corrupt officials and their cronies over the last 5 years, most of that through an unprecedented partnership we formed with State Controller Tom DiNapoli. We are going after cases that are tough cases to bring as well as easy cases to bring. So we're very proud of the work we did. We thought that was a good outcome, and it certainly changed the way business was being done in Niagara County. The incident, as it was alleged, was an issue of he admitted to having passed money through an account to keep an employee on the payroll. That was what it was, and we thought this was an appropriate disposition. But we just indicted on Monday the mayor of Mount Vernon, New York. We continue to bring cases all across the state against Democrats and Republicans. Corruption is a bipartisan enterprise, and I'm proud of the work we did in that case. Was a good example of something that before we started this expanded public integrity operation and entered into these working arrangements with the Board of Elections that gave us the referral in that case and the state controller, it's unlikely that a case like that would have been pursued.
Just as a follow-up to that, he was facing felony charges beforehand. The guilty plea saw him, he gets no jail time, $1,000 put this against a Republican and just try to get him out with a slap on the wrist?
Well, getting him out is, I don't think he would view as a slap on the wrist. I don't think if you asked George Maziarz, he would say, oh boy, this was a good experience for me. So and look, it's important to send the message that we'll take on cases that are more challenging cases, even the false filing case, conspiracy case. There were a lot of other people who were involved in this. We thought it was the right disposition for that, and we're not going to shy away from cases even if they are tough cases. The notion that this has any partisan element to it is pretty ridiculous, since we've pursued so many Democrats and sent incumbent Democratic Assembly members, senators, New York City Council members, town clerks and supervisors to jail. As I say, we just indicted a Democratic mayor on Monday. So there's no argument that this is partisan. We pursue the facts where we get them. This was a referral from the Board of Elections, and we think it's important to follow up on those, even if the facts of each case aren't the strongest in the world. It's important to pursue them.
Other questions?
Chris Day with WCFO News. I guess just on this notion of public corruption, your reaction to the Joseph Rococo verdict. I know it happened a couple days ago, but
The evidence that was presented at trial was really devastating. I mean, it was a disgraceful pattern of abuse. I take public corruption very seriously. When I was in the state Senate, I chaired the committee that expelled Senator Hiram Montserrat, the first time the Senate had expelled a corrupt official in modern history. So this is something that I take seriously, and I think those of us who believe in government as a force for good really have to be the harshest critics of waste, fraud, and abuse in government. I commend the U.S. Attorney's Office for pursuing this. And going back to the question we were just speaking about, they've pursued hard cases too, and they've gotten some of their most significant cases reversed on appeal. Doesn't mean it's not important to pursue those cases. So I commend them for doing that, and we'll move on and see what happens at sentencing. But it's something that sends a terrible message to the people of the state of New York. So I'm glad that justice was done in this case.
he was only convicted on 3 of the 6 charges. Is that sufficient?
That's enough. Yeah, there's serious charges. There's serious charges.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.